All right, guys. Hey, we are live. Sorry about a little bit of a delay there. Just having a little bit of technical difficulties. Hopefully we're good now. And we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, pretty much everywhere. What we're going to be talking about tonight is we're going to be talking about the deal finding secrets in 2023. And what I want to do is make sure that if you're out looking to buy a mobile home park, that you've got some extra tools to do it. And so this is going to be interactive. I don't want you to feel like you just sit back like you're on the couch and watching TV. I want you to contribute. I want you to participate. And if you're on Facebook, you got to click a link or something and look at the calendar invite, and it'll tell you what you have to do to be able to comment in. But if you're on the other platforms, you can just comment right in. I'll be able to see your questions and we'll get them answered. And what's awesome is at the end, when we do the Q&A, I can actually bring people on the screen. We're going to give that a shot. I think there's a link I got to give you or something. But what's cool about it is we're going to be able to interact here. I want to make sure you guys leave with just a ton of value. So let's talk about how we can source deals in this crazy economy. I mean, we're going into a new year. Can you believe it? Sunday is a new year, 2023. And there's really big question mark. What is this year going to look like? And, you know, for many people, there's a lot of fear involved. For those who are ambitious and looking for opportunity and seeing that, you know, there's a contrarian opportunity in play, get excited. I know I am. I'm super excited about 2023. And it's not just like a New Year's rally call. That's like the truth. I've been saying it for a few months now. Since everything has started happening within the economy, I'm geeking about it. We're going to make some money. So let's start out by going over kind of the 4 ways we found deals in the last few years. I mean, I've been buying parks since 2014, but let's talk about the ways that we bought the most parks and the ones that are still relevant today. And at the end of these, I'm going to throw in a little bonus and give you the most unique strategy that we've used to buy a community. And it's pretty interesting. It was a home run deal and made us millions. So let's talk about each one of these strategies. And I promise you, they are not go network with brokers. All right. That's something that works and everybody talks about that, but it's not a real predictable strategy. And it's not something that you're in control of. You're basically building relationships with people that may or may not give you a pocket listing. So I don't want to get into that. That's definitely a strategy, but it's not a way we've been successful. The first way that I'd recommend that you start looking for opportunities is networking with wholesalers. And you might say, well, that's just like networking with brokers. Well, it's not. And the reason that wholesalers are a great opportunity to buy from is because they understand that they need to get the property for as little as possible. They need to structure the best deal possible in order to make it marketable. Where brokers, they go fight for a listing, they go put a sign up, they sell the seller on tying up their property for 6 months in hopes that they're going to find something. A wholesaler really only has a limited window of time. They've got to negotiate the terms to make them marketable right up front, and they got to also find a solid buyer. Additionally, you've got a lot more wholesalers than you do brokers. And you might be like, well, what the heck are you talking about? There's tons of brokers out there. There's not nearly as many people wholesaling mobile home parks. Well, the trick is that every community owner that's buying parks right now is a potential wholesaler for you. I mean, I've wholesaled parks. I've brokered parks. I broker parks very regularly. I'm a licensed broker, so I can do it. But there's deals that I pass on that I know are really marketable for other people. They're things that other people would be interested in buying. They're just not the right size for me, or they're not in my geographic area. And so I turn around and broker those deals or assign those deals. And so building a network of other mobile home park investors and putting out what you're trying to buy from them and telling them that you'll buy contracts off of them is a great way to do it. And I've done that from several investors that own other parks and just bought them from them. Bought the contracts off of them. So wholesalers are really good because they understand what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm not talking about the people who are doing daisy chains on Facebook groups and stuff like that, where they don't even know the owner, where they have legitimate relationships with an owner they've tied it up with a contract or an LOI, and they're working towards a contract, and they've got a real deal structured. And we've bought quite a few from people assigning contracts. So that's number one, and it works really well. And it's pretty scalable. Another way would be cold calling and directly communicating with owners. And I know some people have some holdback on cold calling because they feel like it's either beneath them, or it's too hard, or they don't like calling people and talking on the phone. A couple different directions that will go with that tonight. One of them is suck it up. You want to make money, build relationships with people. It's all about relationships. And if your phone skills are not strong, it's a very, very effective way to buy communities. And so it then comes back to, what am I willing to do to sharpen up my skills to get better at it? Or you can get somebody else to do it. All right. And you can get somebody else to do it by either hiring, or you can do it yourself, or bring a partner on. And we'll talk more about partnerships later. But what I want you guys to realize is that even if you go hire somebody to do it, you still need to do it first, so you understand the process and what it should and shouldn't look like on some of these calls. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to train anybody else to be really good at it. So cold calling has been our number one way of buying communities. And there's quite a bit of a setup involved, just because you do need to build a list. You need to find all the communities in a certain region and build that list, and then skip trace them, which means find out who the owner is and then track down their contact information. Is it easy? No. Is it very doable? Sure. There's a bunch of people you can hire to help you with the skip tracing. That's not something that you should spend a lot of time on. You can hire VAs to do that with experience. And it's just a matter of putting a marketing plan in place and targeting that market with a very solid list. What's great about cold calling is you get to negotiate, you get to find the motivation, and you get to build rapport with the owner directly. You can't do that through brokers because they're always going to try and put up the best front. They're going to try and make it seem like the owner isn't motivated, and it's much harder to negotiate when you got a middleman. But here, when you just call up the owner, build a relationship with them, and to be honest, it's not usually the first phone call. It's usually the 10th call. And it's building that long-term follow-up and communication with somebody where they get to know you and they actually like you and want to do business with you, that when the time comes that they're ready to sell, they're not even going to sell it to somebody else who will pay more because they like you. And you might say, that sounds extreme. Everybody wants the highest dollar. It's not true. There have been people who have sold to us that said, we really like you guys. We really like what you're going to do with our property and with our tenants. And we see that you've got experience, you can close and all that. We've gotten offers for a little bit more. We're going to go with you guys. And they tell us that because they really want to do business with us. And so that long-term relationship building is really important. And this is where people slip up. They get on the phone and they call somebody one time. And the problem with one time is they forgot about you. You call, think about it. If you've ever done cold calling and you call somebody and then you call them back 30 to 60 days later, and it was just a very brief conversation the first time, they don't remember you. You have to refresh their memory. So you've got to get to the point where you know them personally, you know their situation, you know what's going on in their family. You build real relationships, and it takes time, but it is very, very profitable, and it's a rewarding thing for both parties. So definitely cold calling has been successful for us, but you got to do it first yourself so that you can teach somebody else to do it for you over time. Let's talk about the next one. This is kind of more of a grassroots strategy, and it's working with vendors, networking with vendors, and specifically vendors that are in the mobile home park industry or mobile home industry. See, these people know the owners that you want to know. They have relationships. They're collecting money. They have trust from the people that you need to get to know. And so make sure that when you're talking to these vendors, you're telling them what you are looking for, where you're buying, if you've recently bought something, where it is. You're obviously giving them business, or you're building those relationships intentionally. But if you're going to any sort of MH conventions or anything like that, don't blow off the vendors. they bring deals. Insurance agents bring deals. I won't mention his name, but I've had an insurance agent for over a period of time. He's no longer my agent, but I had him for probably 5 years, and he brought me a handful of deals to look at because he was working with the people that I wanted to know. So make sure you get to know those people and tell them what you're doing. I actually just did a YouTube short about this. And so check that out. It's really brief, but I think it's something that could be really valuable for you. Let's talk a little bit about the next one, talking to people. I go, well, talking to people, that's pretty vague, Mario. Well, talking to people is where I get a lot of leads. Every group that I'm in 3 masterminds, I'm in a bunch of different organizations, and every single person that I come in contact with knows that I'm buying mobile home parks. Believe it or not, before I got on here, I got a message from an apartment friend of mine. He owns apartments, and he sent me a message. He sent me a DM, and he said, hey, dude, I got this RV park, which is a little bit off from what I'm buying, although I do own a couple. He's like, hey, I've got an RV park. Do you buy RV parks? And so I'm in the back of his mind, and he's feeding me leads that he wants to either partner with me on or just wants to get a commission for or whatever. And so you would really be surprised at how many leads come in every day just from people in other industries that touch mobile home parks. They know people who own mobile home parks, and they bring them to me. So be very bold about what you're buying because it's super underestimated, but I bought several parks from people who've just referred them to me. And actually, let me give you a little tip. I wasn't going to go over this one, but non-mobile home park brokers crush. They are really, really good leads. So your residential real estate agents that you think you have nothing in common with, tell every single one of them. I've bought a handful of parks from residential agents and other general commercial agents. So thank me later for that one. It is seriously a really good source because they don't know what to do with it. They get the lead and they're like, well, shoot, I know Mario buys mobile home parks and I don't even know how to value this thing. So I'm going to call him. I'm going to see if it looks like a deal. And if it is, I'm just going to connect him with the owner and get my commission. They just want to get out of the way and hope that you close the thing. And that's the same as getting a real hot lead from an owner directly. So let's go over the most creative way, or most unique way, I should say, that I've bought a mobile home park. Believe it or not, this was the first mobile home park I ever bought. I was looking for apartments. Had been in the single family world for a long time, and I just wanted to get into commercial. I wanted to get into something that cash flowed a lot more, bigger deals, all that stuff. Same thing you guys want to do, right? And I had been doing exactly what I just said. I was networking with other people in businesses and just telling them what I was doing. This deal came across my desk because a commercial banker knew I was looking for apartments at the time, and he called me up, and he's a friend. I kept in touch with him, and he goes, look, I got this mobile home park. I know it's not an apartment, but it runs a lot like a mobile home park. You might be interested in this. It's not too far away from you. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah, I guess trailer parks are cool. I don't know anything about them. So I started looking into it, and ended up being a note deal. We ended up buying a non-performing loan where the bank was getting ready to foreclose on this owner. And we went and bought the mortgage from the bank. Everybody was trying to go at it, trying to do a short sale and trying to, get the deal kind of through the front door. We went around the back. I went to the bank that owned the loan and ended up buying the note. It was pretty crazy. Worked out a deal with the city because there was over $1 million in code enforcement liens on this property. So we worked out a deal with the city. We went and bought that mortgage, foreclosed on it, wiped out all the liens, and then get this is crazy. Went to the previous borrower, right? And said, hey, look, you've got $4.5 million in debt personally guaranteed on this. Why don't we work something out where you make up a little bit of the difference and we let you off the hook. We don't have to go after you with a judgment, none of that. We'll just make it a nice clean break. He ended up writing a 6-figure check to get off the guarantee. And so that reduced our basis in the deal by about $125,000. I mean, just super crazy deal, and ended up selling that park for 10 times what we bought it for. Not a 10x return. We bought it and we sold it for 10 times what we paid for it. I actually did a full case study on my YouTube channel about that, but highly recommend you watch that. It was a crazy deal, but there are really creative ways to buy things where everybody else isn't looking at buying it that way. And we bought it for millions less than people were trying to buy it for going in the front door because we bought the debt. So those are some tips on sourcing deals. Now, 2023 is super in our favor right now as buyers. You guys might be like, well, I don't know. The economy's looking bad. The market's looking bad. Look, the time that you buy deals is not when the market is hot. I freaking hate when people are like, oh yeah, the market's hot. We got to get in and buy. Like, that's the time I'm the most scared. I don't want to buy real estate when everybody else is trying to buy real estate. I'm not trying to compete with everybody and their mom. I want to buy stuff when it's on sale. And so I bought things, since 2014, pretty much every year, but I'm telling you right now, we're going into opportunity land. And so you need to make sure that you are ready, prepared, and know what you're doing and have all your tools in place to be able to acquire stuff. We bought 3 parks in 3 parks going on 4. I don't know if we'll get the 4th one done in Q4, but we bought 3 parks, 2 of them in Q4, 1 in Q3, but you get the point. They're picking up, and we've got more deals we're working. So just do not underestimate a bad economy. And let's talk a little bit more about that. There's motivation in the market from like interest rates and recession fears. And if you guys want to start dropping questions in the chat too, you can do that in advance, and I'll make sure to answer them here when we get into the live Q&A. But we've got a lot of motivation because interest rates, and everybody's afraid of the recession. And I'll tell you what I mean by this, okay? Interest rates have created some problems for people who have short-term debt, okay? You guys all know the market was crazy for years. It was hot for years, and people were just paying ridiculous prices that made 0 sense, and I still don't understand how they were doing it. And the truth is, we're going to figure out that they really couldn't do it as things change here. And what I mean is, when someone bought a property that was a turnaround property at an extremely low cap rate on a floating interest rate with a 2-year balloon, and personally guaranteed it, and then the interest rates skyrocket 3% over what they were, they can't get out. Their debt service coverage ratio, meaning like what the bank looks at, how much cash flow over the new loan amount, won't work out. Appraisals won't pan out because cap rates have increased. They're going to get stuck. And that is a super good opportunity to go buy from people who have real hard motivation, because when they've got to sell, they're going to lose their investment and have foreclosure on the credit and all that other stuff. They've got to get out, or they've got to borrow money. And it's going to be really hard to find money when liquidity is already tightening. So there's that reason. And then also people are in general fearing recession. And think about it. You're a 75, 80-year-old person that has owned a park for 20, 30 years, and you've been thinking in the back of your head for the last 5 years, maybe next year is the year I just kind of hang it up and I retire. Do you think you're going to wait it out, or do you think you're going to hurry up and try and get it on the market and sell before an unknown recession with an undetermined period of time kicks in when you're at that age? It's going to push you to the table to sell. And that doesn't mean that we're taking advantage of people, because that's really not it. We're helping them get out at a time that they really need to get out. They should have sold when the market was crazy. They waited. They kept waiting and waiting to see what they could get for it and to max it out. And now that has changed. The market has changed. They now have to sell unless they want to retire in a recession and in a bad market and sell for even less. So it's not that they have to sell. It's that the market and the interest rates and the economy is getting them to really, accelerate getting to the closing table or getting to the selling table. So some serious things to think about. You need to be tooled up. You need to be prepared and know what the heck you're doing and be talking to owners right now. I mean, like I've been talking about it for a while, for the last 30 days. People have been slacking in December. Like, I mean, I'm talking to attorneys, and no offense, attorneys, but you guys are lazy. I mean, they're on the golf course in Florida this time of year. They're hanging out, and a lot of other vendors too, because they're in chill mode, thinking there's no other business. Well, that's how investors sometimes get, is they slack because they're in holiday mode right now in the last month and going into the next few days. You guys need to be cranking, doing something to line up for 2023. All right, another thing that I want to point out going into this next year that we've already seen kicking in is seller financing and creative financing. Because interest rates are so high and financing is not attractive at all. Cool, we're getting some questions popping in. So make sure to drop them in the chat. And if you are on Facebook, you got to do something. There's some instructions in the calendar so that you can drop comments. But if you're on the other platforms, just drop them in. I can see them. But the sellers that want or really want to sell or need to sell or want to sell but can't get offers close to their price are now saying, hey, look, I will consider carrying some paper. I own this for clear. Last year, I would have never carried a first mortgage on this thing. But if it's the difference between me retiring or not retiring, you look pretty solid. You can come up with the down payment. What's the risk? All right, I'll do the deal. I'll carry the paper. You pay a slightly higher price, but get this. When the seller's financing the deal, you can structure the deal in a much more creative way to make the debt service, meaning your mortgage payments, more affordable. I mean, like, give you an example. We just closed one last month in Texas, right? And the seller's like, yeah, I don't care. I'll carry the paper for you. Just, we worked out a price. And he said, I said, let's just do first year interest only. Okay, because we're turning the park around. We wanted to maximize cash flow just in year one, so nothing super aggressive. And he goes, yeah, we could do that. Or why don't I just give you like several months of no mortgage payment? And I did the math. I'm like, I actually come out a little bit better at that. And so he worked it out to where we don't have a mortgage payment till, I think, March or April. So, I mean, that's sweet. You can't do that with a bank. And so even though the interest rate is maybe slightly higher than what I would have aimed for, it's still below bank financing interest rates. And on top of that, I've got it to where my payments make out to where I am very close to what I would have been had I gotten a 5% interest rate, 25-year AM with a bank. So super sweet. There's a lot of creative things that we'll talk about in the future when it comes to seller financing and creative financing. Now, let's also keep in mind that, affordable housing isn't, oh, cool, we're getting a bunch of questions. This is awesome. Drop them in, guys. Make sure you drop them in on all the platforms. Affordable housing is like super high demand. So where we've got cap rates increasing, interest rates increasing, demand for our product is like unheard of. People can't find affordable apartments anywhere. And forget about it. If you're in Florida, the hurricane just accelerated that even more because nobody's got any housing. So they're really looking hard for it. So you got a high demand product. Timing is coming in really good for interest rate and financing being difficult, and motivated sellers come into the market too. It's happening. You got to take advantage of it. All right. So next thing I want to talk about is 4 things that I tell pretty much every new mobile home park investor when they say, hey, I'm looking to buy mobile home parks, or I'm starting to look for deals. And I just want to go through these because I know that there's people watching that want to get into the industry, maybe don't have parks yet and are just starting their research phase, right? And so first thing that I always tell people is make sure that you learn from people who've done it before and like study hard. What I mean by that is some people are lazy. And they just, and I'm lazy at some things, but not at studying when I'm making investments. Okay. You've got to study up hard. Sometimes people will just go watch YouTube and think, I'm going to get all the information I can from YouTube clips, 30 to 120 second YouTube shorts or Instagram reels and things like that. You're never going to learn how to invest in multi-million-dollar commercial real estate watching reels and shorts and reading blog posts and things like that. Even reading a few books isn't going to get you there. All right. You got to learn from people who have done it, and you've got to be willing to put serious effort into it. You've got to study apart and really know what you're doing. Otherwise, you can lose your shirt on this. I mean, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who want to get into the industry and have gotten into the industry over, let's say, the last 3 years. Before that, when I was buying parks, like nobody even wanted to touch mobile home parks. They were the ugly, red-headed stepchild that nobody wanted to deal with. They were ugly properties. And about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, everybody started jumping in, right? And I have now bought one park, almost bought a second park from, fairly ambitious young business people who are very smart, but they didn't research the mobile home park industry very well. They bought it because they knew other real estate. And then they realized, oh crap, this isn't just renting dirt. So there's good opportunity there too, but you don't want to be that person, right? So you want to really know what you're getting into and do it right. I just actually had Justin Colby on my podcast, and that episode drops on Monday. I'm sure many of you know Justin Colby. I think it's Science of Flipping is his whole thing, and super smart guy. And we started talking about, like, people look at others that have been successful and like, oh man, how did you get so successful at this? I can promise you one thing. It wasn't, being lazy on the education. I've probably spent $60,000, $70,000 this year on masterminds and education. I'm in 2 courses, just soaking up information right now. And I got my team that also are learning it alongside of me so that they can implement. So you just got to take education and learning really, really seriously. You spend how much on a 4-year degree? Dude, don't be cheap when it comes to learning an entire investment strategy that'll make you millions of dollars, okay? Let's talk about the next one. And that is, and by the way, if you guys want, shoot me a DM if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Facebook. Just shoot me a DM with the word learn, and I'll shoot you a link to my course and coaching that drops January 16th, launching that. So that'll be awesome. It's going to be the most advanced mobile home park investing education that you can get with coaching. I mean, it's going to be sick. So let's talk about the next thing that I would tell all new investors. Start looking at real deals immediately. A lot of people get into this learning mode and it's analysis paralysis, right? They sit there, they read, they might even take courses. They might even, watch every podcast out there, but they don't actually start looking at real deals because they don't feel like they know enough yet. They don't know what they don't know. So they're kind of stuck in this limbo mode. You got to get out of that as soon as possible. Literally within your first week of getting into this mobile home park investing and learning, you've got to be looking at real deals, evaluating them. And you might be like, well, how do I evaluate them when I'm just getting started? Like, I don't know how to do that. Look, you're not going to learn real life skills with this industry and investing in anything really without looking at real deals. And so start doing that right away. Start doing some light marketing. Even if it means you're looking at deals on LoopNet. Okay. And I'm not telling you to go find deals on LoopNet or Mobile Home Park Store, because those are kind of the trash can for deals that people pass on. But what I am telling you is that as you start looking at real deals, you're going to see different scenarios popping up. And you're like, I've never heard of that before. Why are they billing back electric? I've never heard of that. Oh, it's because they have master electric, and that's a really complicated utility structure. So there's things that you just won't learn because nobody can just textbook teach you. So bring those deals to people that you know that are in the industry, that know what they're doing, and ask questions and research it out on real deals. And this is the cool part. You'll probably end up stumbling around over a real deal early on because you're looking at stuff. The worst thing that you can do is just study and not look at real deals and start evaluating them. I can't tell you like how many times people bring deals to me and we sit down, we spend like 5 minutes, okay? And we're looking at it, we're going, well, these are all the different facts about the property. What do you think about this? And by the time we're done talking about it, they're like, I wouldn't buy that thing for anything. That's a piece of crap deal. That's a horrible deal. Why would anybody buy that? And so it's a matter of hands-on learning is always going to be the best. The next thing, the third thing, is productive actions for the long term. And what I mean by that, sorry, I'm seeing some of these comments come in here. Make sure to drop your questions in the comments. I'll be answering them. We got one more point that I want to make, and then we'll jump into Q&A. All right, so you've got to be productive. What I mean by that is a lot of people get stuck in this, I'm setting up my business, okay? This is so common. And honestly, early on in business, I made this mistake too, okay? Website, business cards, all these different things that really don't matter. Special email domain for their email and their signature lines, and all these like administrative things are just busy work, and they're a huge distraction to making money and to finding deals. Literally, the only thing you should be doing until you own a park is marketing for parks and looking at deals. That's it. So like, it's common to hear that, oh, well, I haven't found a park yet. And you're like, okay, well, cool. So how are we looking on, how many calls did you make this week, or how many letters did you send out, or whatever the marketing strategy is? Well, I got busy and I didn't have time to do that. I'm like, cool. Well, what were you doing if you weren't marketing for parks? Because that's what you need to be doing until you own a park, right? So it's not being a smart aleck thing. It's just saying, look, you got to focus on the main thing. Make the main thing the main thing. And that's finding deals to start. Get out of all the junk administrative stuff that'll never make, nobody's looking at your email signature line, okay? It's not going to make you money. So it's just got to generate leads, and it's got to be marketing specific. All right, so the fourth and final thing that I would tell a new mobile home park investor when they're just getting started is don't try to do it all yourself. I made this mistake. I shouldn't even call it a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's something that I would probably have done differently looking now back in hindsight. Part of the challenge with doing something like what we're doing, buying mobile home parks, is it's a little complicated. There's some different functions involved. It's running a business. I mean, you're buying a business is really what you are. And so sometimes we look and we go, well, I'm not good at talking on the phone. I'm not good at analyzing deals. I don't have all the money to go buy a mobile home park myself. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like there's all these kind of hurdles. They're not doing what I'm not knowing what I'm doing yet. That's something that everybody needs to get over themselves. They just need to learn it. But you can partner with people who are really good at what you're not. And I'm going to be honest with you. I own a management company. We manage our parks and parks for other people, but we are not. If I would have started over, I wouldn't have started a management company. I had to stay completely out of the day-to-day operations of mobile home parks. Why? Because I'd just go partner with somebody who's already got their operations really honed in. And I would have focused on the things that I am really good at, which is sourcing deals, raising money, negotiating deals. I'm good at due diligence and some asset management stuff too. But I don't really care to be in the day-to-day operations of collecting rent, evicting, and doing all that stuff, violations and everything that goes with it. So if I would start over, I would not do it the same way. I would go do what I like, and I'd find somebody else who's really good at ops, and I would partner with them. Yes, you wouldn't own the full deal, but who cares? You're saving so much time, and you can scale so much faster that way. Or if you're really good at ops, you're kind of the operations technical mentality, you're really good with managing people or different technical things, you might not want to go source deals. You might not want to go raise money. You're not the people person, right? That's okay. Go find somebody who is and partner with them. Let them bring the deal to the table. You take over the ops, and you see how that works. And it's actually pretty fun. There are some caveats to partnering with people that you got to be really careful about. Okay, don't go partner with somebody who's really good at what you're good at, because you'll just step on each other's toes. It'll crash and burn really fast. Trust me. The worst thing you can do is go partner with somebody who's exactly like you. You want to because you like them, right? They're just like you. You relate, you click, everything's good, but it will not go well. So partner with people who are opposite to you. and make sure that they have good core values and they know what they're doing and they're proven and that they're willing to put in the effort and go all the way with it. Okay. So like this last year, up until this 2022, I really didn't partner with people. I just did it all myself. I handled all aspects of the deal with my companies. And this last year, I did 2 partnerships. I did 3 partnerships last year. And I've got another one in the hopper that's a partnership. And like, no joke, I'm amped because it's a lot more fun now. It's fun to make money. It's fun to buy property. It's fun to grow and, all that stuff. But there's something about working with like-minded people that you like and you trust, and they know what they're doing too. And they have the same values, and they take what they're doing really seriously. I love working with people like that because it energizes me to go work harder too. So I can't encourage that enough. If you're just like, hey, I don't want partners, that's totally cool. You can always hire people. And that means you can either hire a management company to manage it for you, or you can hire employees internally and build that out yourself. Like, it's doable. Okay. I did it up until this last year. So, and I'm still doing it, but you get my point. All right, let's jump into Q&A. All right. I've got, let's see here. It doesn't say their name. And I think that's, if you're on Facebook, you had to click a link that was in the calendar event and to be able to say names. I'm not exactly sure the name of this person, just says Facebook user, but it says, how are you getting investors, and are they getting equity or a return or both? All right, cool. Super good question, because a lot of people do not have all the money themselves. Okay. And even if they do have all the money themselves, they maybe don't want to put all of their money in one deal. So finding other people who want to also participate in your deals gives you leverage and scalability. I mean, think about it. You probably have finite money. Most people do. All right. So even if you've got a few million to start, you can burn a few million on a few deals. So it's still important to understand raising money or partnering with people to get money. All right. So we got more questions coming in, so I'm going to hurry on this. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either do it as a general partnership, which is kind of what I was talking about before, finding people who have, alternate skills as you that are good at other things, and they're going to play an active role, and so are you. You've got some money and they've got some money, and you come together, you both have an active role, and you're both putting up some cash. I see that a lot, okay? And that's very doable. It's kind of what you and I would probably think of when we think of a partnership, okay? And it doesn't mean that if you're both active in the deal and doing active duties within it, doesn't mean that you both have to come with the same amount of cash. Okay, one might come with the majority, one might come with the minority, but you're both active in the deal, having roles day to day. So that's one way. The second way is through limited partnerships, which are essentially raising capital from passive investors. Okay, they are going to bring money to the table, and they are going to put all their faith in you that you're going to be able to perform, and they have zero responsibility, zero control, zero vote, and you have all of the control, all the vote, and you're basically managing their money for them, okay? And I don't want to get super in detail on this just because it does involve securities law, and I'm not an attorney, and so I don't want to go super deep on this, but it's not that complicated, so I don't want to scare you from it either. I do it on every single deal. But really what it means is you go get a securities attorney, they put together an offering package, and you go out and you network with people who are interested in being passive. And there's a lot of people that have money and they don't want to spend the time to go out and manage, or they don't have, they got a full-time job. I was talking to a really nice couple that I met at an event recently, and doctors, right? They make tons of money and they own real estate, but they're like, I want to own mobile home parks, but I don't have time and I really don't want to go learn it. I want to get with somebody who really understands it and does it all day, every day. This is their specialty. And that's what, they just want to be passive. So I'll give you one tip on raising money. Whatever strategy you go, the most important thing is to, number one, be honest with people, okay? Number two, you need to have confidence and you need to understand what you're talking about. And then number three is don't beg for money. Right? You've got an opportunity, and if you can shift this mindset from I need your money so I can go buy this. I need to borrow money, or I need, it's kind of like we grew up with this like we've always thought, I don't want to borrow money from people. You're not borrowing money. You're giving them an opportunity. So as soon as you can shift your mindset to offering opportunities that are going to produce much better returns because you're confident in what you're doing, that will shine through, and people will recognize that, and they will be attracted to you because you do know what you're doing. You're going to be able to help them. You're helping them just as much as they're helping you. Okay. You're offering a service product, which is a return on investment. So hopefully that's what you were wondering. And we can go down rabbit holes on that. So far, we can go so deep on raising capital. We'll get into that more in the future. All right. And then I got another question here that says, ask this in the group. Oh, okay. Talking about, this is probably, okay. I'm stuttering here. Okay. Ask this in the group. So I have trouble accepting cap rates under 10%, like legit cap rates, not the pipe dreams you see in some of these people's advertising of their properties. I really want higher than that, but I don't really want to buy small parks either. Am I unrealistic? And how are you finding 50 plus units and over 10 cap rates? Okay, let me take a sip of this water. All right, so here's the deal. Cap rates have been low. Why? Because interest rates have been low. They've been unnaturally low. They've been pushed down by the government or by the Fed, right? Unnaturally. And so what that means is people were buying off of a spread between the interest rate and the cap rate. And so if your interest rate drops dramatically, your spread stays the same, but you can drop it down. And I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying what people have been doing. They're buying on a spread because they know that spread is going to get them X return. And so cap rates have been really low, and it's been hard to get things, real cap rates with real returns. And I won't get into super detail on what a cap rate is right now, but it's basically your unlevered return or your return before a mortgage. Yeah, it's been hard, okay? In order to do it, there's two things you need to take into consideration. Interest rates are up right now, okay? And that's in your favor. Like, give you an example. The park that I was talking about in Dallas, we bought that at a I made a note of it before I got here because I was looking at it. It was 9.6 cap rate. Will be in year one, okay? And it's not that anything was special. It's just, he understood interest rates were high, values have come down, and, motivated seller. And I think if you're dealing with people who are motivated and have a dollar in mind that makes them happy, they're not so worried about market value or cap rates. And you might say, that's not true. I don't believe that. Everybody knows the cap rate. Most of the owners that we buy from don't care about cap rates. They don't even know what they are. Why? Because they've owned this park. It's been a lifestyle business for them for years. It's free and clear, and they just know that they need to make X per month to retire. And so, number one, you need to look at who you are buying from. You shouldn't be looking on LoopNet or from any of these brokers putting out these listings. That's all crap. Okay, you're not going to get deals that way. And that's kind of what we were talking about before. It's the source of the deals. Number two, even brokers are starting to come around and recognize that spread has to move up. We got to go from that 6 cap or sometimes even lower up to more like a 9 cap. No joke. I'm seeing some brokers marketing stuff at higher cap rates. Of course, they're inflated, but you can argue with them. And this is what I would do if I was looking at a deal with a broker or even a wholesaler that was telling me they were selling it to me at a 9 or a 10 cap. Then when I get into it, I'm like, hey, this isn't a 9 or a 10 cap. This is a 7 cap. I would then negotiate based on that. Hey, you're advertising this as a 7 cap, or you're advertising this as a 9 cap. I'm offering you a 9 cap, okay? And does that mean they're going to take it? No, but I think you need to really pay attention to who you're buying from. Don't waste time with brokers with this listed stuff. And then the seller financing side, you can definitely create some really good deals that way because you're not dealing with banks and stuff like that. So, all right, Wesley, you got a question here. So what number is a good number to start with as far as number of units? All right, I'm going to get some darts for this and some arrows, right? I got to get out my shield because people are going to disagree with me on this, and that's okay. Go as big as you can. And the reason I say that, instead of start out small, everybody goes start out small. Just buy little stuff to start because it's less risky. You can learn on that. But I'm telling you, it's not less risky. It's actually more risky. The smaller you go, the less diversification you have in your tenant base. And every single expense that you have is going to have a heavier weight on your revenue, right? So give an example. You've got a park, a 20 space park, and you have a break in a water line, and it's in Minnesota, and it's 8 feet deep or 7 feet deep. I'm just going off of memory on what ours is in Minnesota. And you've got to dig all that way down. That plumbing job is going to cost you several $1,000s. Let's just say it's a $3,000, $4,000 job to fix a main break. Okay, how much would that hurt a 20 space park that, with lot rents of, call it $300 or $400 a month? If you had to cut a check for $3,000 or $4,000 versus a 100 space park or a 50 space park that had the same expense, you're going to feel it on that 20 space park. It's going to wipe out a bunch of your returns. It's going to throw off your numbers. It's going to be painful, right? But on a 50 space or 100 space park, that's not that much. It doesn't affect your property as much. And same thing goes with like evictions. You have a few people not pay, or let's say you have one tenant not pay in a 10 space park, 10% of your income gone. You just went to 90% occupancy with one tenant. When you've got a 50 or 100 space park or larger, one could be 1% or 2% of your revenue. So scale is important. Management costs the same. A lot of things cost the same regardless of size. So the bigger you go, the better. You might be little, that sounds good, but I can't go buy a 50 or 100 space park. You can, okay? You really can. And it's knowing, number one, how to do it. Number two, being able to source the money if you don't have all the money yourself, okay? And then potentially partnering with other people who have done it, know how to do it, and hire management. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. So don't let big numbers scare you. It's actually easier to finance a property with a loan over $1 million than it is to finance a property under $1 million. That doesn't make sense, right? Yes, it does, because there's actually the lenders want to put out larger amounts of capital, and the loan terms become more institutional grade over $1 million. They're typically held within their own deposits, or held within their own balance sheet, I should say, under $1 million. So it gets a lot harder to finance smaller deals. So the bigger, the better. I would try and go 50 or more occupied lots. That's my buy criteria. But even if it's 40, fine. 30, I'm not going to give you an exact number because I think it's really specific to lot rents in the market and other things. But just don't think that going small is safer, okay? And go for as big as you can, and you can learn how to do it. I promise you. The first park I bought was a 57 space park, and I'd never bought a commercial property in my life. It was all single families. All right, so I got to keep moving here. So let's see here. And thanks, Wesley, for that question. It was a really good question. And that came, all right, that came in on LinkedIn. So another Facebook question. So are you using a list source to find the owners? No, I do not buy lists of like pre-skip trace leads. What we do is we build a list in a market, okay? Or you could even buy a list of just all of the parks in a market and then just hire somebody to manually skip trace it. Usually when you buy lists, then they're typically junk. I mean, it's stuff that people have passed on and it's not really updated, okay? So you got to build your own list, and it's not like apartments and other businesses that are really efficient and have really good data. Mobile home parks don't, which is where the opportunity is, okay? You can buy, sorry, I'm getting some messages here. All right, let's see. Second question, do you own any of the units in the parks, or are you only leasing the dirt? Good question. I do not own homes. I don't rent homes. Homes that we own, I should say, are inventory homes that we've gotten back through eviction, or we bought them and brought them into our community. We're setting them up and we're selling them, okay? We avoid the rental model. Some people are really into it, and that's totally fine. It just, to me, if I'm going to buy a rental community, I'm just going to go buy an apartment building, because it's going to be that management intense. You're going to have a lot of turnover. You're going to have more staff. Ultimately, in the end, you're going to wish you didn't own it because it's much more intense to manage. And if you want that kind of a business, just go buy apartments, right? So, and we could spend 20, 30 minutes just on that topic alone, but we prefer to own the land and the infrastructure in the common area and let the tenants own their homes. And it's also better for like curb appeal and for pride of ownership and all that stuff. All right, and there's arguments against that too, but that's our stance on it. All right, last question here. Facebook user says, what mobile home conferences should we be going to? There's an MHI conference, several of them. There is the SECO conference, which is the Southeast Community Owners Conference. I spoke at that last year. That's a really good one. It's focused more towards community owners. There are smaller conferences in each state that you should really be a part of the Manufactured Housing Association in your state because they have events that they do sometimes multiple times a year. And then also there's some events that like manufacturers put on and things like that you can go to too. But that's a few of them. I would say stick to the ones that have a focus more on community owners and not necessarily on the home side because it's a lot more vendors. Hang on, I got another one coming in. Let's see here. What is a cap rate? All right, this is super fast, and then we're going to wrap up. Cap rate is basically an unlevered return, meaning your return on investment without a mortgage is the best way to look at it. So give you an example, and I think I've got a video going out on this on YouTube pretty quick here, but it's basically if you make, let me give you a really simple numbers scenario. Let's say you buy a park for $1 million and it produces $100,000 in net operating income, meaning your income minus your expenses gives you a $100,000 NOI. You would then have a 10% cap rate because you take the $100,000 and you divide it by the $1 million purchase price, and that would be a 10% cap rate, meaning you're earning 10% on your money before you figure in a mortgage or anything like that. And it's really used to compare properties side by side. There's other metrics you can use too, but that is commonly used to compare deals side by side and determine what's the better deal. Okay. And that's why they take out the debt aspect of it, because everybody's going to get different debt structures. Some will put mortgage on it, some won't. And so it's easier to just value it based on the net operating income before debt. So guys, what I want to do is I want to encourage you to hold on. What makes a park profitable using one you have or just random as an example? Well, that's a tough question. What makes it profitable? Well, it's that net cash flow. And this is really important that you do not focus on buying a certain number of units, that you focus on real cash flow. And that's why the whole mobile home park investing for cash flow and my education company and everything is called real cash flow, because you got to be focused on how much money you make and your return on investment is. So I would look at it this way. Does the property earn a high enough return on the investment that you're putting into it? And ultimately, is it enough cash flow? And is it going to help you build enough wealth to make it worth it? Give you an example. You can buy a park with 10 spaces and make a 50% cash on cash return a year. It looks awesome. It sounds awesome, right? Unprecedented returns. But if it's only like $3,000 a year or $5,000 a year, is it really worth all the work to buy a park that's only going to produce $5,000 and maybe make $50,000 or $100,000 at the end of the whole process when you sell? You got to decide that. But I would say to determine if something is profitable or not, I would measure the return, the cash on cash return on your investment. And then I would also look and say, does it produce the return or does it produce enough cash flow and ultimate wealth growth for me in the big picture? So guys, hey, I hope this has been super helpful. Make sure if you're not in the mobile home park investing for cash flow Facebook group, join that. Check out the YouTube channel, mariodatillo.tv. And if you want to learn how to buy mobile home parks, shoot me a DM just saying, what was that? I don't even remember.
Learn.
It is
Learn.
Learn. Thank you. shoot me a DM with Learn, and I'll get you a link on that. So guys, let's keep going. And thanks for joining the Facebook group if you've already joined it. Have a great night. See you guys soon.